Welcome inside the IKS Media Studios for another season of SJHL Hockey. It's SJHL Weekly, the season preview edition, our annual one, of course, presented by our good friends at UPL. It was an off-season of change in the SJHL, full of new beginnings, but most importantly, tons of opportunity, as we do every single season here in the league. Opportunity for a rare three-peat champion, as the Melfort Mustangs have won back-to-back Cantera Seeds Cups. Opportunity for new communities to put their stamp on the landscape of junior hockey in this country, as we welcome the Warman Wolverines to the league after the Notre Dame Hounds have moved to Warman. Opportunity for new playoff teams and refreshed rivalries. Opportunities for new young newcomers to fill some big holes left by star players and graduated players. And opportunities for you, the fans, to become acquainted with a new group of dedicated, hard-working players who will become the stars of this league for the next 8 or 9 months or so. Welcome to the 2025-2026 SJHL season as the chase for the Cantera Seeds Cup starts this weekend. And who better than this guy to my left to break it all down with me today, the former voice of the Notre Dame Junior A Hounds. And he still runs the Twitter account, in case you're wondering.
I do?
I shouldn't have said that. Maybe
I didn't know that.
One of the most dedicated analysts in junior hockey in this country, Jamie Neugebauer. Nugsy, what a summer it's been. How excited are you to get this all going again?
Yeah, it's exciting, Clark. I was driving here on the way to the show, and I was just thinking, what a job we have to do this. Thank you to Paul Drouin with IKS and Kyle McIntyre, the commissioner of the league, Jacob Faith, the director of marketing, who raises the shekels so that we could do this. Because, you know, it's a blast. What a great job we have. And, you know, what a treat to cover in such an incredible league with such a passionate fan base, such incredible athletes. As always, we're so grateful, Clark and I are, and we'd love to hear from you whenever we can. All year long. We don't bite, we promise. But it should be a lot of fun. This should be a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, you mentioned the fans. Austin Cardell is checking in. Don McInnes is checking in. Don Williams is checking in. Of course, some of those regular names we've seen for a few years now. But we love that. So make sure you, if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you comment in. We'll try to get your comments on the screen. Actually, guys in the back, we have a new guy. We're going to call him out, Connor. He's the new guy. He was kind of around last year, but he's the new guy back there. So we're going to make sure we're going to test him a little bit today. And see if we can get those comments on the screen. We already have.
Kid's got to work ethic.
He's already on it. Kelly Lewick, our designer from upstairs, he's watching on YouTube. So if you are watching on any of those channels, please make sure to hit like, comment in, and please share around on your social media platforms, because every time you do that, it helps us out on this for this league, and it helps us give more coverage to these players, and it's great. So make sure you do that. And as you can see, speaking of Kelly Lewick and the design staff upstairs, including our Joshes, we have 2 guys named Josh upstairs, a new set design.
Beautiful.
For the show this year. And SJHL Insider will also look a little bit different, I'm told. So you'll have to wait and see what that looks like. But this is the new set of SJHL Weekly, so we're pretty excited about it, Nugsy, as we kick off the season. But the people aren't here to listen to us talk about the design of the set. They're here to talk about the teams and hear about the upcoming season and all the excitement around their favorite teams. So why don't we get into that now? We're going to go division by division for this show as we preview each team. So why don't we bring up the divisions now, because there's a bit of newness in that as well. There's some new names. So let's bring up the divisions now. As you can see, the former Viterra division is now the Bunge division. That includes Melville, Weyburn, Estevan, and Yorkton, of course.
I told Cody Mapes about the division change, the head coach and GM of the Weyburn Red Wings. He's like, Nugsy, we're the last team to win the Viterra division of all time. And I was like, you're right, Cody. That's a great
historical season from the Weyburn Red Wings last year, yes. The Nutrien division, that's familiar. You've heard that before. That stays the same, but that includes the new Warman Wolverines. As you can see, they've replaced the Notre Dame Hounds in that division. And then the Northern division, which for years and years and years was the Sherwood division, is now the UPL division. So now you know the new names. Shout out to all of our sponsors. Flin Flon, Melfort, Larange, and Nipawin in the UPL division this year. But we're going to start, Nugsy, with the Bunge division. That's, of course, the Southern division. And what we're going to do for each team as we go team by team is look at last year's results a little bit. We're going to discuss, of course, their off-season changes. We'll discuss their team depth right now in terms of what we know about their roster going into Game 1. We'll talk about a new player that you're really excited about. We're going to talk about a returning player that I'm really excited about. And then we'll just kind of get an overall outlook of the team. At the end of each division, we're going to have to pick our division favorites. So get ready for that. It's going to be fun. And as we go along, please, if you've seen these teams in preseason, if you've watched any games so far, shout out who you're impressed with. Let us know who you're really excited about this year on each team, because obviously the more we talk about these players, the better. But let's start with the Melville Millionaires in the Bunge division. Again, it's going to get some getting used to of saying that division title name.
I believe it's a Dutch
awesome.
word. I believe it's Dutch.
Okay, well, I'll go with that. I'll go with that. I'm not going to argue. So we'll start with the Melville Millionaires, Nugsy. As we can see, last year they had a really impressive season, ending up 5th in the league, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, they went 31-22, 2-1 with 65 points. A really impressive season overall. A team that was a very good shutdown team. We wondered where a lot of their goals were going to come from last year. I'm going to say that theme is carrying over a little bit into this season, Nugsy.
Yeah.
But what can you tell me about the Melville Millionaires in terms of last season and coming into this year?
Well, the first thing is that they're big.
Yes.
Very, very big. 9 guys over 6'2", 9 guys over 190 pounds. Aggressive, physical. This is a team that has taken some time to be built in Doug Johnson's image, the head coach GM. They are now in Doug Johnson's image. They are aggressive. They can skate as well. They'll play his system or they'll leave, and they will have a terrible time of it. But they are a team that won't be any fun to play against. We did talk about their issues with maybe a few goals here and there. They only scored 172 last year. That was 8th best in the SJHL, but their goals against was 149, which was 3rd in the league. Only Melfort and Flin Flon gave up fewer. So, I expect a very similar formula, really, when you talk about just the big picture.
Yeah, and I mean, in our preseason chat, myself and Doug Johnson, I got to chat with him 2 years in a row now for the preseason chat. Last year, his big thing was, I'm very excited about our blue line.
Yeah.
This year, his big thing was, I'm very excited about our blue line. And in fairness, I don't see why you wouldn't be. They have 5 solid returning players. And when you look at Boston Harkness, I think he might be one of the better players in the entire league, let alone just as a defenseman. So I think he's got a big role coming up for him. But you look at Wesley Golden, you look at Brody Hicks, you look at some of those other guys around them. I feel like they have a really solid blue line, maybe one of the better returning groups in the league overall.
For sure. Yeah, and obviously you throw in the power play quarterback in Louis Nadeau in there, who, for Melfort, in Melville, you hope could stay healthy, but he's kind of going to be protected there. He's not a big guy, but he's the quarterback of the power play, so you don't want to mess because they got these bruising dudes. But obviously you mentioned there Boston Harkness, important guy. Only Brendan Olsen had more points in terms of guys who are back from Melville this year than Boston. So, I expect, I'm sure you're going to agree, some huge things from him. But, hey, again, up and down the lineup, this is a team in Doug Johnson's image. There were some guys maybe last year that were good players that maybe didn't fit his way. And it's now going to be his way more than ever, or the highway.
Yeah, Jay Corgie's checking in, a.k.a. Jeremy Corrigan. Returning person I'm excited about, Nugsy. Absolutely, everybody is. Thank you for chiming in, Jeremy. Appreciate you joining us. A little bit of a fresh look in net. Actually, not a little bit. A completely new, fresh look in net. Cale Svensson comes in. When I talked to Doug Johnson about him, he was very excited about Cale Svensson. But we're looking at an inexperienced goalie group this year. Does that scare you a little bit, or with their team system, maybe it won't be as scary as some other teams?
I've joked with some people that I could play goalie for Doug Johnson and be okay. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be okay. And, obviously, I don't mean to take anything away from any Melville Millionaires goalies or Nipawin Hawks goalies of the past. There have been some incredible ones.
Yes, there has.
And obviously, last year you think about Nick Jeanette and Ben Lorette, and they both were terrific as well. And so they deserve credit. But yeah, Cale Svensson, he had a whole year of Junior B in BC under his belt last year, did very well for Sicamous. So my expectations are high. He came from a great U18 program, the Calgary Buffs too. So I've got 0 question marks about Melville's goaltending. Obviously, until we see them, we don't know for sure. So maybe that is a question mark. But playing behind this decor you talked about and the way that these forwards should buy in, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. And one thing that I had my eye on all offseason, of course, was because if you look at last year, Taylor Tabashniak played games for the Melville Millionaires last year. He's coming out of AAA, very impressive season with the Regina Pat Canadians. He made the Regina Pats as an 18-year-old. So that was a guy I was looking out for. The other goalie for the Regina Pats, Kelton Pine, also a former Melville Millionaire. So I was kind of keeping my eye on that just for Melville's sake. But both those goalies are now Regina Pats goalies. So for now, at least, Cale Svensson seems to be the front runner. Is there a guy that's coming in? Now, we didn't talk much about the forward group necessarily, Nugsy, but I think your answer for this next question might be coming from that forward group? Is there a guy coming in that you might be excited about in terms of the Melville Millionaires, a new guy?
Yeah, well, so one of the paths of what I'm going to call the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
Because obviously Brendan Olsen is returning. He's going to be an important player for Melville. Don't get suspended this year, Brendan. That's all I got to tell you, because last year was too many.
Yes.
And I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
But Wesley Olsen is the real deal. He's a guy that is a pretty well thought of Swift Current Broncos prospect as well. He was the captain of the Swift Legionnaires a year ago, 48 points in 44 games in AAA last year. Big time piece for Melville this year. I expect him to have a big season on this team. And if I can have a 1B Samuel LaPlante on the back end, had a cup of coffee with the Regina Pats last year too. All-around player, right shot, elite offensive skills on the back end, can do a little bit of everything. But there's a lot of good young players on this Melville team too that you're going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But those are the two quick ones that I'm going to give you.
Yeah, one, and then for the player that's returning that I think you have to watch out for, I already talked about him. Boston Harkness was my guy, but I'm actually going to switch it up. A big shout out to Boston Harkness. I think he's an early candidate for Defenseman of the Year, honestly, just especially with the type of opportunity he's going to get there. However, I'm going to go with Preston Bearwald on this one. He's returning, obviously. He was the former first overall pick in the SJHL draft. I think when we ask the question about Melville, where are the goals going to come from, I think he has a huge opportunity to maybe be that guy and take a huge jump in his career. And also, like I mentioned, a former first overall pick in the SJHL draft, so it's a great storyline. And the SJHL draft just continues to pump out products. We'll talk about a team later in the Nipawin Hawks who has a ton of SJHL draft picks on their roster this year. So guys like that are very important for this league, and I think Preston Bearwald has a really great opportunity to maybe take a huge step for the Melville Millionaires. If there's nothing else you want to touch on, let's move on, Nugsy, to the Yorkton Terriers, because last year they were a team that we projected to score, I think, 6,000 goals.
Yeah.
Maybe not that many, but they scored a ton of goals last year. This year it's going to be a little bit different, but I also don't see a massive drop-off. I think there's still a ton of talent there. It'll be a different-looking team, though. Obviously, 33-21, 2-0 last year for 68 points. Very effective power play, a solid penalty kill, but their issues came, they didn't really have a ton of issues overall. They were loaded in the scoring department. Their issues maybe came in the back end, but those questions were answered by some very impressive performances. One being Tommy Reese, who came in and lit the league on fire as a rookie last year. But what do you see now with this Yorkton group coming back that doesn't exactly have maybe as much firepower as last year, but maybe is in a similar boat in terms of the type of team they're bringing back?
Yeah, but they do return a lot of guys from kind of the middle of their lineup.
Yeah.
If you think about it that way. Obviously, they lost 62 goals, 145 points just between Jaron Denoyer and David Coyle. It's also
two
a lot
guys,
of leaders right there. But these are great kids coming back. You think about, Skittles Tavender, think about William Leonard, you think about Jai Zawatsky, you think about Vinny Junek. Speaking about Zawatsky and Junek, two local boys there to Yorkton, that's always good to see.
Yes.
Talk about the guy coming in. They have a couple new guys coming in that I'm really high on, and I'll get to him, but I think one of them is going to really light the league on real fire. But the last thing I'll say is, people who maybe watched the Western All-Star Showcase and said Callum Craig wasn't very good because he had a tough time at that one game. I'm a big Callum Craig believer. Just one game.
Yeah.
It was a big game, and that was tough, but he's a really good goalie. Emery Lawson really believes in him in net. He's going to get a big piece of the load with no Ethan Farrow, of course.
Yeah.
I really like what Emery Lawson's brought in, and the standard in that community, because they had tons of fans come out last year. Their best attended team in the league last year. You know what? Let's keep that going.
Let's keep that going. The momentum in Yorkton seems to be carrying forward, and that's great to see. One of the things when I was looking at my preseason predictions, if you want to call it that, my power rankings, which we'll talk about another time, but does this team have a good group of returning forwards? Do they have a few returning defensemen, and do they have a returning goalie? And like you said, Callum Craig, I think, is among one of the best returning goalies that we have in this league. So that's got to be super exciting for Yorkton. But Nugsy, you mentioned a new name. Who are you really excited about for this Yorkton Terriers team? Yeah,
so Gabriel Courchain is not a big guy. He's a 2006 birth year from Quebec, but he's electric. 45 games for the Quebec Remparts last year, played on a really, really good TELUS Cup team in Magog a couple of years ago as well. And he was relied on to play gritty, defensive, penalty-killing role in the queue last year. But we know he's got the offensive piece. Now he can do it all for the Yorkton Terriers. So watch out for Gabriel Corshane in terms of a guy who's, coming from somewhere else. And obviously, people who watch PHA, obviously the Yorkton Terriers have watched PHA very closely up there in Carenport. Aiden Valance and Kieran Osberg should be back together from that PHA program that the Yorkton's going to put together here this year, and that should be a really fun combination to watch as well.
Yeah, exactly. One returning player that I think is going to play maybe the role of what we saw last year from Jaron Denway is going to be Jai Zawatsky. And I think the local guy, last year he was 10th on the team in scoring, Nugsy, but he still had 33 points in 45 games. You can't say that about too many guys who were 10th on their team in scoring with that many points in their season. He was kind of a third liner last year, kind of up and down a little bit, depending. Yeah, he dealt with a couple injuries. He missed a few games, but I think that this guy has all the potential in the world to really take this team by storm, and I'm saying leading them in scoring, all that kind of stuff. And I think he's going to be on a solid first line on that team with Vinay Junek, like you mentioned, and we'll see who else kind of fits into that picture. But I think they have a really good top line. I think Jai Zawatsky is going to be a great person to kind of take that leadership role that they had so many of last year. They had so many guys that could take over any given night. I think Jai Zawatsky is going to have a huge opportunity this year to be that guy for Yorkton. So look forward to that. We'll get to a little bit more on them in a minute, but let's move on to the Weyburn Red Wings, Nugsy. Obviously, a huge season last year, a historic season now. Cody Mapes mentioning that they were the last team ever to win, technically, the Viterra division, now named the Bunge division. A huge season last year, top 3 team in the league, 35-19, 2-0 for 72 points. A dynamically offensively skilled team. Their power play, surprisingly, not as good percentage-wise as you would think with how much firepower they had last year. But overall, they outscored teams by a ton. Their goal differential was plus 52. They won a lot of games. They went on a run all the way to the final. So it was a very exciting team for this Weyburn Red Wings team. But Nugsy, it's not the same team this year, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you start, in net, and Ty Matanovich is going to get his opportunity. He had, it's so hard to judge him on anything negative over his career so far. He had, a weird year there in the BCHL where all he did was practice, and then he went to Humboldt a bit, and then he was, second, third, maybe in Humboldt, and part of the Daza Mitchell trade, and, got to play behind this great team, albeit, but he played very well when he did. So now he's going to get that chance, and I like that he's coming in fresh with an idea of, what his opportunity is in net. And, there's a lot of good stories, pardon me. I think the back end is also where it starts too. That top 4, Simon Martin and Jonah Baird, and obviously my buddy Josh Carmen, who I'm an enormous fan of, have been for years. I heard he really went hard in the gym this summer. That's going to be huge. And as well, of course, Luke Schrader on the back end. So those top 4 are as good as any top 4 in the league. Obviously, they lost, Jerome Maharaj, Ethan DK, Jackson Ruthven, and Max Chakrabarty, which is 225 of their points. So yes, the question is, will they score as much? No, they won't.
Yeah.
But top to bottom, they should be harder to play against for every line, and I think that's going to stand them in good stead.
So who's a new guy that you're looking at that you're like, okay, this guy could step in and maybe help out with that production loss?
Yeah, well, he hasn't played in the preseason yet, but Callis Pierce is an 06 winger, 75 games in the BCHL, and he was a really important player for Trail in the BCHL a couple of years ago. Then he went to Nanaimo, and for some reason it didn't work out there. So now he's going to come into this opportunity in Weyburn. He's a great kid, great shot, works hard, works well both ends of the ice. Looks like he's going to be an elite guy on the league. Just watching a little bit of video on him, but I think he'll slot right in the top line for Weyburn and be a really big piece. Keep an eye on that name, Callis Pierce.
Okay, I love that. And like Nugsy mentioned, I think their defensive group is it's up there with one of the better ones in terms of returners in the league. But the guy I look at coming back from last year is 19-year-old Turner McIntyre. I think this guy has a chance to, like you said, slide right into that top line, or at least in the top 6. He's got a ton of skill. He's a really dynamic player. He had 19 points in 34 games last year in a depth role with the team. But I think with him and a guy like Josh Sale, I think those two kind of guys are going to have to step up in a big way. Because I think the biggest question right now for this Weyburn Red Wings team, especially compared to when you compare to last year, is where are the goals going to come from? And I think there's a couple really huge opportunities for players to be those players, and Turner McIntyre.
I think this Weyburn team, at the beginning of last year, they were not a very complete team. At the
Right.
very, very beginning, they're
true.
way more complete right now.
Yeah.
And the guy that stuck out to me out of every SJHL player at the SJMJ Showcase, RIP as a tournament, is Simon Martin. And, that kid is maybe the best skater in our league on the back end anyways. And I think he'll have a monster year.
Yeah, like I said, their blue line is really solid. So if they can build with Matanovic, that blue line, and build up from there, like you said.
It's a good start.
Maybe if last year's team was an overpowering offensive team, this year's team is going to be really hard to play against. 200-foot complete game kind of team, and we'll see if they can transition that into some offense in its own way.
And all those guys had that Cantera Seeds Cup final experience. So
yeah, they have some guys coming back for sure. So that'll be Weyburn's going to be a really interesting team to watch, I think, especially early on, to see how they kind of get off the ground and get running. But let's move on to the team down the highway from them, the Estevan Bruins, which is kind of a team in transition right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're going to be a struggling team by any stretch. They have a brand new head coach, of course, Drew Kosher, taking over full-time there as head coach and general manager for the first time. 18-31, 5-2 last season, so obviously a down year by anyone's standards, but a tough year for Estevan, who had been dominant for a few years prior to that. 43 points, missing the playoffs last year, 18% power play, 75% penalty kill, so special teams not where they wanted it to be. Goal differential, not where you wanted it to be, giving up 229 goals, Nugsy. What do you see this year for this Bruins team? Because like I said, it's kind of a transitional year for them, but they did have a pretty huge offseason, I'll say. I'll kind of prime you up with that. They had a big offseason.
Well, yeah, I mean, they made a huge couple moves.
Yeah.
They sent the rights to Kent Moores, to Battlefords, for Rylan Williams and Logan Goodwin and Alex Sheck to Battleford. So that'll see. All three of those guys that are back, Estevan got back in that deal are, supposed to be in the lineup day one for Estevan. We don't know when. If Kent Moores will get to, and Dylan Adams.
The goalie.
Well, he'll be the goalie too, yeah. So it was a great trade.
It was a great trade.
Way to go, Drew.
It worked out great.
Yeah, Drew Kosher, obviously, I think he's got a chip on his shoulder coming into this year. I think a lot of people, questioned a lot of the guys on this Estevan team late last year, especially. You think about the guys on the back end. You think about Ethan Andrews and Logan Goodwin, especially guys who were supposed to kind of be elite players. Had a bit of a tough time last year. They'll come in, I think, and have a big chip on their shoulder to try to show what they can do. Dylan Adams will get the #1 spot in net. The thing about him is very talented kid. Didn't play very much the last couple of years. Last year, he played in Blackfalds in the BCHL. It's hard to judge a goalie because Blackfalds had a kind of historically bad season last year in the BCHL, so hard to blame him. But the talent has always been there. He beat out a guy that people kind of know in Jake Torget for that starting spot, and an Estevan Bruins alum, and Brady Carr looks like he's going to back up. So, Estevan has some guys with chips on their shoulders. There's more sure things in Rylan Williams and Colton Getzlaff, obviously, and Ewan Rennie is a great piece to get back. But it's a very, it's an Estevan team that, again, I'm not sure, but there's certainly a possibility that they could either be very good or not very good, and we'll see. We'll have to see.
They definitely have the makings. They have foundational pieces. Now it's going to be the matter of, first-time head coach and GM taking over in a new league, Drew Kosher, and staff, I should say, if they can bring it all together and find that team culture. If they can find that culture, it seems like a team to me that can maybe scrap their way into a playoff spot after a year of missing the playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting one. Who's a new guy that really stands out to you in your mind as a guy who people need to pay attention to?
Well, other than Dylan Adams, who obviously being the starting goalie for the Estevan Bruins, the binoculars are on you.
Yeah.
But Parker Seymour, is a kid on the back end that I think Estevan Bruin fans are going to love. Fort Saskatchewan Rangers, U18, AAA. Big, thick kid, big shot, 100 PIMs in the last 3 seasons in minor hockey. He's a tough, physical dude back there, and again, he's a minutes muncher where he was in AAA. So I think Estevan people love the rough and tumble they always have, and I think he's going to fit right in.
Yeah, and a guy who I think coming back, I think could take a massive leadership role is Ewan Rennie. You mentioned him. Obviously, he led the team in points last year, almost a point per game, 54 points in 56 games. I think this is his team. I feel like he's kind of like the heartbeat guy for this team. Obviously, Colton Getzlaff coming in is huge, and Rylan Williams coming in is huge for that forward group. But I think Ewan Rennie is the kind of guy who I think a lot of the offense will kind of go through Ewan, especially because he's a little bit familiar with Drew from last year. So I think that he's that guy that Bruins fans, they're already watching from last year because he was so impressive last year, but he'll have a huge year this year as well. So there you go. Some things to watch out for in the Bunge division. But Nugsy, if I had to ask you today, who might win? Who might win the pennant? Who might win the title of the Bunge division title? Who would you think right now looks like the team with the best chance?
I just think the makeup of the Melville team is one that's sustainable. Just based on, I don't know, because I think these rosters are going to change so much. I'll put my throw out there. I'll say the Melville Millionaires.
Okay. I'm going to go with Yorkton, just because I think right now in terms of all...
Throwing stuff at the screen.
I know, they hate me right now. Sorry, Weyburn fans.
Well, they hate both of us.
Yeah, fairness. Yeah, both of us. Yeah, equally. But yeah, there they are.
Hey, it's going to be a really tough division. Like, it'll be fun.
This, to me, is the one division that I think could go all 4 ways. Yeah. I could see it going all 4 ways. But I do think, we look at last year's success in Yorkton, and I think they have enough returning group to maybe sustain that a little bit, maybe especially off the front. So we'll see what happens there, but it's going to be a really interesting division. I really do believe it could go all 4 ways, depending on how these teams all start. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the Nutrien division, of course, the one returning division from last season. The Nutrien division, and we'll start with the Humboldt Broncos. I think that this team is going to be really interesting this year. Obviously, Braden Klamosko having a chance to kind of settle in after the craziness of his changeover last year. They were at 28, 22, 3-3 last year, 62 points, ending in 7th place in the league. It seemed like a pretty strong team, but they couldn't ever put it all together consistently, it seemed like last year. So this year, what kind of team are we going to see this year? They had 204 goals last year, 32 goal plus 32 goal differential, Nugsy. A couple of really, really key returning players that I think could set this league on fire. But what do you see when you talk about the Humboldt Broncos right now?
Well, I mean, I think I can think of 3 really key returning players for Humboldt.
More than 2.
So which of the two of the 3? Obviously, Jacob Streetsy. Yeah. We had 71 points last year. We finished 3rd in scoring in the league last year, and he's back. Yeah. He averaged 3 points per game and 3 goals per game, in the preseason. 2 hat tricks in 2 games. Not too bad, Mr. Streetsy, who I call Striz Nasty. Yeah. Obviously, Connor Miller coming back from the Vancouver Giants. That is huge. And obviously, Oakley McIlwain on the back end. But there's pieces to love all over this Humboldt team. They need to come together better, maybe, as a unit than they did last year. Because I feel like they're watching that Humboldt team last year. The cohesion was a little bit off. Yeah. But there's definitely 0 excuses. And, Braden Klamosko, their head coach and GM, this is, a year where he can really put a stamp on it. Last year was a transitional year from Scott Barney to him, and so people were like, is this Scott Barney's team? Is it Braden Klamosko's team? This year, it's now Braden Klamosko's team. Yeah. And in terms of weight, of expectation, of talent, there's no excuses for this Humboldt Broncos team. They have all of it. And who in this league, as a coach recently, has experience having a team that with that type of expectation coming into a year? It's Braden Klamosko, when he did with that Battleford's team a couple of years ago. So, hey, he knows how to keep the engine going for a good hockey team. This is a good hockey team. Go have fun at the EPA because it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be
a fun year, I think, for sure there. One thing that is big for them, obviously, they made the news last year at the trade deadline. They made the Daza Mitchell trade last year to bring in Daza. Their goaltending situation now is a little bit up in the air. Do you have any news on who they might look forward to in terms of who they might have in net?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jackson Tritt is the more veteran goalie, and obviously another Kotai in the league.
Another Kotai.
Nick Kotai, Josh Kotai, and Riley Kotai's brother in the league now as well for Humboldt. So good to see the Kotai family keep coming back to the SJ.
Good track record there.
Good track record. They both have worked out great. Yeah. I would say.
Third time's an even charm.
Third time's a great charm.
Who knows?
So, we'll see. Obviously, Tritt, I think, should get the start right away, being the older guy. And, the younger Cote is just an 07. So, we'll see. But there's a lot to like in front of them. So they'll be well fortified, and it's on them to show that they're good. But if there's one area of this team we don't know, I guess maybe that
would be the big question mark. I think going into the year. Who was a new guy though that you are looking forward to? Maybe it's one of the goalies. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I could easily say Christian LaSalle, who they just got from the Regina Pats, which I think obviously was a point per game player in AAA. It didn't really quite work out with the Pats. It was a tough year with the Pats overall last year. But I'm actually going to say Carson Croteau. two-way D-man. They're really high on him. Obviously, again, they've got lots of good D-men back. Obviously, we didn't mention Ryder Knutson or Tegan Semchishin, et cetera, et cetera. They got Simon Garchinsky back as well. He should be a good piece. But Carson Croteau had a great preseason, so I'm kind of going on that. Great two-way defenseman with a lot of skills, too. So LaSalle and Croteau are my two guys to watch.
Yeah, I think for returning players, I think it would be easy to say Jacob Streetsy, who I think could be an MVP candidate. I think it would be easy to say Oakley McIlwain, who I think is going to be the Defenseman of the Year candidate, or at least one of the candidates. But I'm going to go with Jeter Cordy. I think he's entering his 4th season now. He had 24 points in 30 games last year, but he's never had a full season. He's always had health issues. And he's only played 70 career games in 3 seasons, over the course of 3 seasons. So entering his 4th season now, fingers crossed he's feeling good. I'm hoping so much that he can stick around and be that possible like glue guy for this team. I think he's a huge piece of the puzzle. So fingers crossed there. And I think the sky's the limit, I think, for production, especially if he's going to be, I saw him a few times in the preseason beside Jacob Streetsy. I think if the two of them can stay together, I think that's just a recipe for a lot of production there.
Congratulations, just in general, to the Cordy family. Obviously, his little sister making a big name for herself with Team Canada and Hockey Canada getting her opportunities there. And obviously, whenever a Saskatchewan boy or girl, man or woman, does something, we're all proud. So really cool for the Cordy family.
Definitely. So I'm cheering for Jeter Cordy this year. I'll say it, and I think he could be, like I said, a huge piece for this team. So he's my returning player to watch. Let's move on to the Kindersley Clippers. There's a lot to be excited about here with the Kindersley Clippers, I would say. Obviously, last year was a huge step forward for this team, this franchise. 25, 26, 3-2 for 55 points. After years of finishing near the bottom of the league, they took a big step forward last year with a young roster. This year, that young roster is 1 year older, and they have a bunch of good returning players, Nugsy. So what can you tell me about this Kindersley team who might be on the rise?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they took a step forward last year, actually, to push back on you a little bit. They were 8 2 years ago. They were 8th last year.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, the same, pretty much.
In terms of that, it's
But I
not
mean,
that
obviously,
big, but
Kyle
it felt
Schneider
different.
gets his first gig.
Yeah.
Just like Connor Logan, we didn't really mention with Battleford's. Congratulations
Shout
to
out
you
Connor
both
Logan. Yeah.
getting your first head coaching gigs. And Ryan Gibson will be the GM as well in Kindersley. But if there's no excuse for Humboldt this year, there's no excuse for sure for Kindersley either. And the expectation is the huge step forward this year for Kindersley. 15 returning impact players. And that doesn't even include Austin Oshovy, who they got on the back end back from North Iowa, and then Nall, who was, of course, with Kindersley a couple years ago.
Yes.
And they got Van Egger, of course, former Notre Dame Hound legend, with the last year from the Prince George Cougars. Had a great year there. Well, the team had a great year. He was, an important guy for the character and for the room, for the grit of that team up in the Dub. Yeah. I think he'll be a much more relied on player offensively, this season. But there's a lot of talent for Kyle Schneider to deal with up front. It feels like the Perlinger twins have been in the league for 100 years, and they're only 07s. Yeah. But they're both, over 100 games in the league.
They're only 18.
And they're only 18. And Jackson Herchak, obviously, again, back. He was really trying to make the dub with PA. It didn't work out, but again, he should light the league on fire again this year as long as he can stay healthy. Avery Johnson, another name that I've got really big eyes on. 10 of his 15 points last year were on the power play. So in terms of power play quarterbacks, especially as a forward, he may be the best in the league. But again, there's a lot to like on this Kindersley team. I know you love the goalies. Brett O'Halloran back again. Wasn't supposed to have the experience that he had last year, stepping in for Cody Jamin's long-term injury. But he did great. He was a Rookie of the Year candidate, and he was a Goalie of the Year candidate. Can't ask for more from Brett O'Halloran last year either.
Yeah, definitely one of the teams I look at with some of the most comfort, I would say, in net. So definitely having Brett O'Halloran, I think, is going to be massive. Like you said, a lot of returning forwards, almost a full group of returning defensemen as well. When you look at guys like Russ Demo, Jacob Dennis, you mentioned Jackson Herchak, Mason Egan is back. So a very solid group. Austin Oshawi, who you mentioned as well. Who I just think it's one of those teams where sometimes the group of returners tells a whole lot in terms of preseason prediction, and I feel like they're one of the more complete teams in terms of returning players. Will Christian, another guy we mentioned from last year who was among their league team leaders in scoring last year.
There's another
Ethan
one.
Sotner. We can go on. There's a lot of guys. Brock Evans.
Years.
Right. They just traded for Kagan Lowe, who is a young player. But who's a new player, Nugsy, that you're really excited about with this roster of otherwise a lot of returning players?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned they kind of have 5 returning D-men. Obviously,
Yeah.
Mason Eggen is another one on the back end. Cohen Loney, the second you walk into the rink in Kinders, you're going to notice Cohen Loney, just because he's 6'7",
Nope.
06 D-man,
That
had
works.
a good year in Junior B and BC last year. Isn't he got interesting potential? He'll be well insulated. If it works out when you have a D-man and a kid that's that big, you want to give him a try and see what he can do, but he did really well in the preseason. Ryan Gibson, the GM in Kindersley, really likes him a lot. Again, kind of that Zdeno Chara type presence on the back end could be really big for Kindersley.
Never hurts to have a guy, like you said, that's that big. I think I could go on and on about returning players up front, but I'm going to go with Jackson Herchak. I think this guy is at 32 points as a 17-year-old last year in 48 games. I think he's going to be, like you mentioned, he's going to light this league on fire. I feel like this year as an 18-year-old, centerpiece of a lot of offensive production, especially coming off that blue line that's going to have a lot of puck movers on it. I think he's going to be a big centerpiece for that. Power play quarterback, obviously out there all the time. So I look for a guy like Jackson Herchak as an 18-year-old. I think he could be not just among the league leaders on the blue line, but I think the league leaders in points overall. I think he could be that kind of player this year. So
it should be interesting too. Obviously, we didn't mention with Connor Miller in Humboldt, the chances of him coming to play for Team Canada at the World Junior A Challenge. Even though he's a returner from Canada West, they have a unified Team Canada this year coming up.
Sure.
Jackson Herchak is also a returner from that team.
Right.
But he's an 07. So Herchak is certainly a guy to watch for that World Junior A Challenge team as well.
yeah, so a lot to be looking forward to, I think. At the Interpipeline Arena this year in Kindersley. It's going to be a ton of fun, I think, so look forward to that. Let's move to the Battlefords North Stars just down the road a little bit. Last year was an interesting year for them, I think, to say the least. Obviously ended up in 6th, but they were in that kind of jumble of teams in the middle there. They did end up in 6th. They played Weyburn in the first round. But Nugsy, it's going to be an interesting year. New head coach, obviously. Some new players. They shipped out a few this offseason, like we mentioned, that trade with Estevan, with the Kent Moores trade coming back, Kent Moores, I should say. So that's still up in the air, so we're still waiting to see what happens with that.
He made sure.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens there. Yeah. But generally, still a pretty solid group of returners overall to look forward to. Last year, 29, 22, 3, and 2, like I said, 63 points. A negative goal differential, despite scoring 205. They let in 211. So I'm going to say maybe that was a theme coming out of last year that we're just not quite sure about where they are this year. But when you look at Battlefords this year, what are you seeing?
I see a lot of reliance on Tony Campbell and Raiden Zacharias to generate offense.
Yeah, Raiden Zacharias, a big off-season acquisition
from Melville. He was up and down last year a lot from the Western League. And Josh Nittig needs to, again, take a step forward offensively. I see a team that could really use Kent Moore's help. Coming in. I do like a lot of their young players. I think Connor Logan, again, brand new coach coming in from BC Junior B. I'm not going to say they're going to struggle, but I'm just going to say I think that this team might need some patience. It's been some turmoil. They lost Braden Klomosko. They turned it over to Marty Smith last year. Marty Smith is gone. They moved to Connor Logan. It might need some patience as a project in Battlefords. We'll see. Obviously, they had so many great years over the years in Battlefords. Such a great fan base. That is there patience to be had on a fan base that's so used to winning every year? Guess we'll see. But still, obviously, there's some very good players, some experienced players. We'll see. I know Thomas Samborski and Connor Baumbach in the goaltending situation, got some stick maybe last year. But I think these guys could really use a fresh start, a fresh new year to come in healthy and fresh. Connor Baumbach dealt with injury. Samborski with a lot of moves. They come in fresh and know what they're doing this year. So we'll see. I'm not going to say they're going to struggle, but I am going to say it's a wait and see for sure for me for Battlefords, if I'm being honest.
I think when I'm adding on to that and building off of what you just said, to me the phrase that kind of sticks out is maybe top heavy with this team. Like they have some very solid guys. We look at Josh Nittig, we look at Anthony Campbell, Braden Zacharias. If they're a line, that's about as good of a line in the league that there might be. Nienaber's still there. He had 15 goals last year.
And obviously,
Gavin Granger's as good as that gets as a two-way player.
On defense, they have 4 solid defensemen.
I really want to see Lincoln Fisher get a good look and stay healthy and get a good look for Canada at the World Junior Challenge too.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Owen Dick's there. Sebastian Miles is coming back. So to me, like, they have those solid returners, and then it's just like, okay, who else? I think that's going to be the question that we get answered very early on in the season. It won't take long to figure out who this Battleford's North Stars team is going to be.
Yeah.
But who's a new guy that you have coming in that you're pretty excited about?
Yeah, well, again, there's a lot of options there. But Austin Garrett is I guess, the one that I'm going to circle. 06 D-man who played for Connor Logan in Victoria Junior B last year, was a point-per-game player as a defenseman, but also had 131 penalty minutes while being a point-per-game player as a defenseman.
So that seems like it might fit. Like him in Battleford's.
And they might like him. And one of the key things for me, is that the Victoria BCHL team called him up in the playoffs a bunch too. So he was a rookie last year. Obviously, Connor Logan knows him and believes in him and knows how to get the best out of him. And so, that really bodes well for his opportunity coming into this year.
Yeah, I think I mentioned him, you mentioned him. Anthony Campbell, to me, is the returning guy who's going to stir this pot. I think 55 points last year in 56 games. 29 of those were goals. And I think a lot of this offense this year is going to go right through Anthony Campbell. And for good reason. The guy's a very skilled, talented player. He's captain of the team this year. I just think a lot of it's going to go through Anthony Campbell.
And Soupy Campbell wins faceoffs.
Yeah.
Obviously you got to call everybody named Campbell Soupy.
Yeah.
He wins faceoffs. And I love kids that win faceoffs.
You do. We'll have to get into that in SJHL Weekly next week.
Yeah.
Who will win the weekend faceoff battle? We'll tell you on Monday.
Yeah.
Let's move on, Nugsy, to the Warman Wolverines. Obviously, you're very familiar with this team, despite it being brand new. Of course, the Notre Dame Hounds Junior A team has moved to Warman, so they bring over a lot of the roster from last year, well, some of the roster from last year. But it's a new look team. Let's not pull any punches here. It is not the Notre Dame Hounds from last year who finished 12-42-2 with 28 points with a negative 119 goal differential, Nugsy. It's a different team this year, and there's some real excitement around this community, around this roster, around this refreshed coaching staff. Even though it's Brett Pilkington's making the move, there's a lot of excitement around him getting a new chance, a new perspective on recruitment and all those other things in Warman. The community is excited. Their home opener sold out. So what are we talking about when we're looking at Warman to start this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, big thanks to Brett Pilkington. He's kind of, we've worked so long and so well together that we stay in touch quite a lot still, and so I have a bit of an idea still of what's going on out there. I think getting Vinny Palmerine back is enormous when you have a guy that can play that many minutes at that high a level. I think that's going to help everybody. If Vinny Palmerine stays in the SJHL all year, is he in that Oakley McElwain, Jackson Herchak kind of, best D-man in the league kind of, conversation? I'm sure there's others that I'm missing at the top of my head, Tommy Reese, etc. But the Boston Harkness, we can keep going. But Vinny's right up there. He looked unbelievable in the preseason. I think he's going to be phenomenal as long as he's healthy. And I just think that, Warman's back end is a lot better just in general than Notre Dame's back end was. And obviously Fierce and Lindorf, another year older. You talk about Luke Lawford, another year older. These guys have come into camp in really good shape. Wiley Smith looks a lot better. Carson Curbs, they got,
of course, Wiley Smith was in that Liam Hunks trade from last year. Very important.
So obviously this is a team that's going to be, just like Battleford's, it's a wait and see. It's a work in progress. Can Hudson Kerr get healthy and be back? As we saw him in great flashes last year too. They have a lot of, if it works out, it'll be good. But I think it's important for this team to hit the ground and be very competitive right away, to get that fan base excited right away. It's a beautiful rink, obviously, they have in Warman. They've sold out that first game against Humboldt. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting team in terms of their goaltending. Obviously, Spencer Borsos last year was a workhorse, playing almost every single minute last year. So it's a fresh look in net, and a name that a lot of SJHL fans might be familiar with. Eric Kale is around. He's in town for that. But also Griffin Wright, who maybe fans don't know the name yet, but I feel like he's the kind of guy who they might get to know pretty quickly. A big goaltender in net, some interesting experience. So I think the goaltenders might be, I don't know, maybe I'll go with you. Just go for it. I don't know if Griffin Wright's your guy, but who's your newcomer that you might be excited about?
I'm very excited about Kane Kennedy. He had 2 really good years in Nelson and the KI. He had a great preseason, 4 goals in preseason. He's just banging in goals, that guy, and he looks big. Doing the great media stuff that they're doing up in Norman with their business manager Brianna and Story Neverott, the equipment manager. They're doing a wonderful job, trying to generate that buzz with their media and social media and whatever. So King Kennedy looks like a tough tough kid too. So I think he's going to be a guy that's going to put some pucks in the net.
Fan favorite, it sounds like to me. A returning guy from the Notre Dame roster coming over. I can't look farther than Vinny Palmerine.
Yeah. Vinny's favorite.
Vinny Palmerine, to me, looks like a guy with a lot to prove. Obviously, playing in his hometown in Wilcox before. Now he's out of his hometown in a new community, and he took an opportunity last year to go to a different area, came back. So I think he's got all the chance in the world with this roster. I think, again, maybe along the lines of what I said with Jackson Urchak, a guy who could be a defenseman leading this league in points. Not necessarily leading the league, but up near the top. That's the type of talent he has. He's physical. He's got that puck-moving ability. He's got that leadership quality. So this guy, I think, we could be looking maybe at the defenseman of the year right now.
He's got a cannon of a shot.
Big shot, right shot defenseman, power play quarterback. He's going to do everything there for Warman, like you mentioned, Nugsy. So I can't go too much farther than that in terms of returning players. Nugsy, the Nutrien division, who's your favorite right now as we sit today to maybe win that division? Put a banner up in the rink.
Like, I just think it'll be such a battle between Humboldt and Kindersley all year. So to pick between them right now is terrifying.
Well, you pick one, I'll pick the other one, because that's where I'm leaning to.
Okay. Well, I just think the experience of Braden Klamosko will probably help the Humboldt Broncos. So I'll just go with Humboldt Broncos.
What? What do you mean, what? Bryce.
But there's lots of reasons to say Kindersley.
Yeah, I'm going to say Kindersley. If you're going to say Humboldt, I'm going to say Kindersley. Obviously, I think Humboldt has a lot of that really high-end returning guys that they can rely on. I think Kindersley has depth, and they're going to come in waves, I feel like. So I'm going to go with Kindersley. I really like the build of their roster this year. And I think the only edge, the main edge I'll say that I'll give them, Brett O'Halloran over a goaltender we're just not sure of yet, that could easily take over and do very well. I'm just saying.
Scores like Jacob Streetsy.
Well, that's what I mean. They're going to have 9 guys or 10 guys who can score, whereas I think Humboldt, we'll see. They'll have 5 or 6 really good ones, but I just think Kindersley's depth, I just really like the way their roster is put together. And shout out to their entire staff over the last few years, putting them in a place.
Kyle Adamson's just going to hammer that goal horn up in Kindersley. Oh, man.
Look out.
Look out.
Bring your earplugs for the season.
Love it, Kyle.
Let's move up to the UPL division. Of course, another newly named division, and we'll start with the Flin Flon Bombers, Nugsy. Who? Yeah. A very, very good season last year. Had the Melfort Mustangs not been as dominant and historically successful as they were, this team put together a very impressive season last year. 38-13-4-1, 81 points. Most years that would be a first-place kind of team, but Melfort was just that much more impressive early on, especially in the year, because last year's Flin Flon team was out of a playoff spot 10 or 12 games into the season. They got hot, though, like world record type hotness in the middle of the season from that team last year. So what can you tell me about this year's version of the Bombers? Because again, I feel like they're a team that's going to look a lot different, I think, but with a lot of returners, but a lot different this year in terms of the way they play.
Yeah, the name familiarity a little bit down, but I asked Mike Reagan kind of before the preseason early, what do you kind of have? What do you think you have, Mike?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, like, we'll see. I think it'll be like a team that competes hard top to bottom. We like it, as opposed to maybe just as explosive and dominant as the Justin Lee's team was a couple of years ago.
Right.
But they scored 53 goals and gave up 16 in the preseason, albeit against some teams that maybe didn't play very well. We'll just be politically correct there. But the Flin Flon Bombers looked awesome in the preseason, and I think they might even better than Mike Reagan thought. And obviously, Mike and John Klassen and that staff, they recruit as well as anybody. And one thing that has helped Mike in the past, maybe before the last couple of years, was bringing a lot of kids from Quebec. And that's what we thought about them as kind of this French team. Well, they've kind of gone back to that, Xavier Fauchon, Nathan Lalumiere, Maverick Delisle, to bring in, they already had Nathan Mounier-Roberge.
I'm so happy that you are such good friends with Jacques Newberry, because he really does help you
owner
with those
of the QMJHL. Yeah, look, and they have 5 defensemen back. Obviously, Wyatt Yakimchuk has taken a big step forward, too. They are deep and solid and heavy everywhere. And one thing that's new about this team, maybe than the last couple of years, is this is very, very mean. Like, this is right in your face. Like, I want to see a Flin Flon Melville series now. Yeah. Because I think those two teams would absolutely, smash each other. Yeah. It would be a lot of fun. Obviously, you think about Joey Lees. He's always been a pain in the blank. Wyatt Stinton, obviously similar type of player, local boy. Kind of love that. Obviously, Landon Alexander, he is a truck. He hits as hard as anybody in the league. So, this is going to be a no-fun team. They can score. They kind of have a bit of everything. I expect Flin Flon to hit the ground running in a way maybe they didn't last year.
Sure.
But it depends on, what was the turning point last year for Flin Flon?
Getting a goalie.
Getting the goal.
Getting
right.
Matthew Keeper.
So
and that's a big, I think, one of the biggest question marks. And that's what I asked Mike Reagan in our preseason chat, if you watched it on our YouTube channel. I said, Mike, every single year for the last, 3, 4, 5, longer than that, probably, you've come into the year generally with an established goaltender that you can say, he's my number one. Last year, obviously, didn't go quite as planned off the top of the year. But generally, they've had a very good 20-year-old and a solid 19-year-old or 18-year-old to take over the year after. This year, they don't have that. They have a 20-year-old, but he's brand new. Devin Peck, brand new. And Kenneth Marquardt did not come back this year, at least right now. So they're looking at a fresh, new-look goalie group, which just isn't regular. It's not normal for Flin Flon. They've always had an established guy. So what do you think? Does that concern you at all? Because they have a full group of returning defensemen, plus Xavier Fauchon, who they acquired, 20-year-old defenseman, and a pretty solid, deep group of forwards coming back, generally.
Well, I think the commitment of the forwards on this team to play defense is also going to be good. There's not going to be any cheating for offense on this Flin Flon team. Not that you can get away with much from Mike anyways.
Yeah.
But this is, going to be an exceptionally Mike Reagan friendly style of play that this team plays, a coach friendly style of play that they're going to go with right away. It's very physical and belligerent, so that'll make everybody's life easier when the forwards are helping. Not to chirp anybody really.
Who's a new guy that you're excited about?
But it's going to be a good team. I have to go with Xavier Fauchon.
Sure.
Just an electric guy on the back end. 44 points in 36 games as a defenseman in Sept last year. 14 points in 10 playoff games as a defenseman in Sept last year, and by all accounts in preseason, totally dominant. I'm thinking back to Xavier Lapointe, kind of, type of dominance.
Good first name for that, too.
Just the Xaviers and Flin Flon. It's a good combo. So
Anytime. I'm going to go with Rhett Ewan for returning players that I'm really excited about. I think I watched him last year, obviously throughout the season, but in the playoffs specifically, in that Humboldt series. And I was like, man, this guy, if he can come in with this type of energy next year, I look at him as the type of guy. Remember Alexi Silvestri from a couple years ago? Yeah. I look at the kind of player who's very similar to that. Size-wise, he can beat you up, but he's going to put up some points. I think Rhett Ewan, maybe in talking to Mike Reagan, has a bit of offensive potential to unlock still. But I think this year he could be given the opportunity to do that in the top 6 role, maybe a top line role even. And I really liked what I saw last year. So if he can take that physicality and add that offensive touch, we could be looking at a guy. He only had 15 points last year in 53 games. I think he could get into the 40s. I think he could get into the 50s. I could even see 60s in terms of points. So I think sky's the limit for this guy. And he's only 19. He's got 2 more years left. So I really like the looks of what Rhett Ewan could be in this league.
No question. And I do like the fact that Flin Flon does have a nice local core now too.
Yes, yeah.
You think about Ryder Muka and Stinton and Joey Lees.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to have a bunch of guys that are from the area on your team. I think that's great.
It's going to be an interesting year for Flin Flon. I think they have a lot of potential, but it's going to be, can they find that early? What are they going to be like early, I think. Let's move to L'Orange Ice Wolves. I think last year, it was a disappointing year last year. Very, very close to the edge of the playoff picture. Just missed out in the last few weeks of the season. Struggled to get those points that they needed at the end of the year. 24-27, 3-2. Killer Kaminsky is back. He has I'm going to say a fresh slate with this roster. This is a new team. There's a lot of graduating talent from last year, and this is a young roster. But the excitement around L'Orange may be not even necessarily on the ice. It's their new facility. They have a brand new facility, a whole new thing going on there. So a lot of excitement around L'Orange, despite having a pretty fresh look roster. What do you think, Nugsy, when I say L'Orange Ice Wolves this year?
Well, one guy who isn't fresh is Graham Brown.
Yes.
And I think that's where it starts with L'Orange. And I mean, he won a few games by himself last year and maybe needed to. He was awesome, and he's an awesome, athletic young, 20-year-old goalie now for them. So he's terrific. I think Jack Carley behind him will also be very good when he's called upon. The Prince George Cougars have their eye on him as well in the Western League. He's a big boy out of the Calgary Buffs, and I think he'll be very good too for them. Again, there's going to be a lot of expectation and need for Graydon Porosny to have a great start. Same with Zane Normand and David Vitt, up front to be a big presence. Owen Turner on the back end. Will, how will he step forward? Tyson Matthews. These are guys that maybe haven't had that role before. They're going to get that role now. What will they do with it? One thing I'll say, the last thing I'll say, is that you never have a fun time playing Kevin Kaminski's team. Doesn't matter who's in the lineup. You put on that L'Orange jersey, the expectation is 100% compete, 100% intensity. And I think it's going to be the same again this year.
Yeah, and I hope nobody took what I said earlier as a slight against this team. I think a lot of these players, there's a lot of talent there. They just have never done it before. They're all either rookies or new to the league. So I'll say this, and I say this every year, the SJHL is a league of opportunities, and there is a ton of opportunity with the L'Orange Ice Wolves. And maybe they'll surprise. It's just when you look at the other 3 teams in their division, and we'll get to the other 2 right after this, but there's just more returning talent coming back that we're just a little bit more certain about. Right now with L'Orange, outside of Graham Brown and a couple of guys up front, I just think there's not a ton of certainty there. So that's just all we're talking about with L'Orange. It could go really, really well. We'll see, and I hope it does. But who's a new guy, Nugsy, that you might be really, maybe there's a couple new guys that you might be really excited about coming to L'Orange?
Well, I'm actually excited about Jack Carley. I think, again, he had one bad period in the preseason in Warman or against Warman at home.
Yeah.
But other than that, he was outstanding. And he's a big boy, as I said, athletic, very highly thought of. And Graham Brown can't play every minute, so
well, Spencer Borsos tried last year.
He tried, and it nearly killed the kid. Poor guy. But anyway, he grew a great mustache, anyways.
Yeah, great mustache.
But I'm gonna go with Jack Carley.
I'm going to go with returning player. I have to go with Graham Brown. I mean, I think you said it kind of. I think this team will, I'm going to say, live and die with Graham Brown's performances for the most part. If they can keep the shots down on him, I think he's going to stop a lot of rubber this year. So if they can keep the shots down and help him keep his numbers up, that could go a long way for this team having the success. But I really do think the success of this team, as of this moment, is with Graham Brown.
And Jacob Faith will be at the JRMCC very soon.
Yes.
So we're excited, and next Tuesday he said, and SaskTel Game of the Month this year as well at the JRMCC.
Yes,
extremely excited
stuff
up there. Everybody is so kind, always up in L'Orange.
Yeah.
Love that. So
actually, we had an SJHL marketing meeting today, and Jacob just said it's really exciting because we haven't, as a league, been able to get to L'Orange for a game of the week or game of the month, I should say. We've wanted to year after year, and now we're doing it. So it's really exciting time. I think the new facility, the new dressing room, everything there that they have at their disposal now in terms of resources is very exciting for the future of the L'Orange Ice Wolves. So a lot of excitement there. Speaking of excitement, I started this excitement train last season. I'm excited about the Nipawin Hawks this season, Nugsy. It was a team, obviously missed the playoffs last year, very young team last year, but they played so much fun hockey near the end of the year last year that it had me revved up for this season for Tad Kozin and company in Nipawin. 17-33, 3-3 last year with a 40-point total, but a minus 82 goals differential. Obviously, like we said, very young team at the start of the year. You could see that. They were inexperienced. They were losing games. But near the midway point, they came together as a unit, and they only graduated 2 players off that roster last year. Nick Markakis, their backup goaltender, and Nick Markakis. Yeah, the right fielder of the 2004 Baltimore Orioles.
Nick
Markakis.
Yeah,
no,
and
sorry,
Vito
Nick
Biondo
Markakis.
the third.
Sorry,
yeah.
thank you, Nugsy.
And Jack Sherrow also.
Yeah, and Jack Sherrow. Thank you. So 3 guys, I guess. But bringing back as much as they are, their entire top 9, more or less, a good chunk of their defensemen, Gage Roberts in net. I feel like the excitement we had last year around the Yorkton Terriers is the excitement level that I have this year around the Nipawin Hawks. I think this team could score a ton of goals. And like you mentioned, the goal horn in Kindersley, I think the goal horn in Nipawin is going to be going off a lot this year at the cage. So Nugsy, when I say Nipawin, what comes to mind for you?
Well, first of all, we're all talking about their offense. Their defense, they only gave up 7 goals in 4 games in the preseason. Yeah. So, if anybody's like these guys can't play defense, you're also wrong, because Justice Cutler and now Noah Heinrich and whatever, they're coming in, as Nipawin Hawks from the beginning now, and they have a point to prove. Yeah, it's going to be electric. It's going to be explosive. They're going to put up big, ugly numbers if you're the other team. When you face this team, you think about Ashton Tate coming back. His second half last year was unbelievable.
So good.
Mason Karkachuk, Carter Anderson, Will Witter, Jack Drake, Connor Watson, Eric Hoynes. The biggest headache I think Tad Kozin might have is how do I fit everybody ice time-wise?
Yeah.
on this team. It's something that some of these loaded teams we've seen have had to think about. But it's obviously a great problem to have. And there's, again, talk about no excuses for like Kindersley and Humboldt and those types of teams. There's no excuse for this Nipawin team now. With everybody committing to coming back, good job by Tad Kozin and Dana Dirks and everybody there, retaining all these guys. I think that's huge for our league and great for our league. And the fact that so many of them are Saskatchewan kids is a bonus.
And SJHL draft picks.
Draft picks, you mentioned it earlier. There's no excuses. It's going to be a lot of fun up in the cage.
It just screams, like I said, when you look at Yorkton from last year, it was they missed the playoffs, or they make the playoffs the year prior last year? They missed the playoffs the year before, right? Last year, they took the league by storm. They had so many returning guys.
First time Yorkton had home ice advantage since before COVID.
Top 4 finish, like you said. So I feel in my heart that this team has that potential. I feel like buckle up in Nipawin. I really, really like the makeup of their roster. Like you mentioned, Finley Radloff, Carter Anderson coming back as 20-year-olds. I feel like Eric Hoynes, again, another guy in that group, mixed with the young guys like Will Witter. You mentioned Will Witter.
Jack Jansen, I didn't even
still 18. Like these guys are, and I feel as good about them as anybody. So I just really love how Tad Kozin knew last year what it was, and he moved this entire roster into this year, and I just think that goes a long, long way. Continuity in this league is very important, and I think the sky's the limit for this team. I'm very excited to see what they can do. It's a very tough division, though. And so who's a new guy, because there's not many open spots, but who's a new guy that you're really excited about?
A lot of open spots, but obviously my buddy Trevor Sabo, who I'm always always owe a lot to, because he's always helping me out with prospects and stuff too. He's a great scout for them, and Dana Dirks, they recruit so well. Mason Lother is a guy I've got an eye on, 6'2", 281 pounds, 07 forward from Leduc, Alberta, near Edmonton. Was called up a couple times in the AJ last year as well. Scored a bunch in preseason, 15 goals last year. He's a big guy. Obviously, it being big at Centennial Arena helps because it's not a big rink, so that helps.
Yeah.
And then William Shabbat on the back end, no local boy to Nipawin, which is always good to see as well. An 08 birth year, 10th round pick of Moose Jaw as well, so the Warriors have him in their system. But he's an 08, 20 points as a D-man for the PA Mintos as a young buck last year too. Talented kid. Again, not a lot of spots for new guys on this team, but those are 2 good ones.
I love that. And just a reminder, coming up, we have a break coming up. We only have one more team after this. Kyle McIntyre, commissioner of the SJHL. I didn't mention that off the top. Sorry, Kyle. But Kyle McIntyre will be joining us after a commercial break shortly, so stick around for that. We have some important questions for Kyle as we kind of get a state of the league. One returning guy, it's really hard to pinpoint for Nipawin. One returning guy. I could probably give you a 15-minute segment on this, but I will go with the captain, the hometown captain, Finley Radloff. I think he had a bit of a down year last year, still had 18 goals last year, but 23 the year before. We had really high expectations for him last year. I think my expectations are even higher this year. I think this guy's got a ton of untapped potential with the roster coming back, the power play opportunities that are going to come for this Nipawin Hawks team. I think that he's got 30, 40 goal potential. So keep an eye on Finley Radloff. And again, hometown boy, the captain. He's on his 5th season of junior hockey. Usually anytime you see a guy going into his 5th season, that just means, A, he's got the experience. He knows there's the calm factor, the poise that's there. It just doesn't come around with very many guys. So I think Finley Radloff has huge, huge, huge ceiling.
Local boy who grew up watching those great Doug Johnson Nipawin teams in the mid-2010s. He's going to feel that buzz back at the cage, so he's going to love that.
Get your tickets now, Hawks fans, at the cage. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nugsy, we saved the champions for last. I'm not going to say the best for last necessarily, but the champions for last, the Melfort Mustangs. Back-to-back champions, back-to-back silver medalists at the Centennial Cup. Obviously, a run that we don't see very often from any league, any team, but the Melfort Mustangs have kind of been this way for basically all of Trevor Blevin's campaign, or his tenure, I should say, as head coach and GM. They've won lots of championships. They've had a lot of success, but last year was a special season. 46 wins, 8 losses, 2 shootout losses for 94 points. We raved the year prior about how successful Flin Flon was, setting the league record for wins. Melfort says, okay, we'll break it. They broke it. They broke it again. 221 goals scored, a 98 goal differential, plus 98, I should say, an 839 win percentage. Insanity. And not only that, Nugsy, they're poised to do it again. They brought back a ton of returners. including a solid goaltender, a solid blue line group, and a solid group of forwards coming back. Is this another year for Melfort? Like it's hard to not ask that question. Is the three-peat in the equation here?
Yeah. Hey, well, I would be the last person on earth to question, Trevor Blevins, of course, Rick Oakes as well.
Yeah, shout out Rick
incredible
Oakes.
Senior scout.
Yeah.
This is a group of guys that have been there, have done that, have seen it all, have won. How many one-goal games did they win last year? Like 100 one-goal games.
Like as much as they
it was
won.
so different than Flin Flon a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
Just where they just found a way to win game after game.
Yeah.
And so because this team, does it have, a Riley Kotai? Does it have an Aiden Hutchinson from the year before? Or a kind of mini junior? Doesn't have a Duguay, etc.
Right. I know what
like,
you're saying.
is it, Clay Sleva? Does it have that totally electric couple guys that can take over in a moment's notice? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they do, and maybe Zayden Saddlemeyer and Will Munroe and those guys that are all back, familiar names that we talked about a ton as we went through the finals.
Ashton Hutchinson.
Ashton Hutchinson, of course, his little brother, Aiden's little brother. Maybe they'll take that step and be that guy, but I don't know if they need to. Obviously they got, tons of experience everywhere. Their decor, and obviously you mentioned, Bo Eisner, Cole Unger, Teo Flores back too. It's an interesting group. It's a group that had roles last year and the year before even, that maybe they're going to have to figure out how to be the guys.
Yeah.
And will it be as dominant from the beginning?
Yeah.
But they know how to win. This group knows how to win. I have zero question that they will be a very, very good team. And will they be a team that will be in the finals? I think there's a great chance. Will they win it? There's a great chance. I'm not going to say they are the unbelievable, undoubted favorite right now, but they are, again, I'm not going to put the Trevor Blevins name in my mouth or the Melfort Mustangs name in my mouth and say that they're not going to do it because how can you?
They're going to start the preseason rankings, the power rankings, the Sask Power rankings, by the way, new sponsor, Sask Power.
Faith are working hard for all of us.
The new
always
Sask Power
does.
Rankings. We'll put out our first edition of that tomorrow. But surprise, surprise, Melfort's number one. They're going to start the season number one. Whether we think that they're as good as they were last year or not, they set a record for wins last year. And that's hard to do. I don't know if you knew that. That's hard to do. So are they going to be that good? I'm going to say probabilities, no, they're not going to be that good. But they are going to be a solid, hard-to-beat team. They're deep. It's crazy to me, and I say this could be like a recording every year that we say on preseason shows every year, that Trevor Blevins is able to win a championship 3 seasons ago, bring back a good enough group and add to that group good enough to win a championship a year ago, and then bring back as good of a group as he has for a 3rd straight year. I mean, again, we'll see what kind of production they can put together, but the names on this list, it's deep, it's solid. Like you said, they're hard to play against. These are the grinders from last year are now going to be their top guys. So you know that they're going to be hard to play
Hutchinson wasn't one of their grinders. He was like on their number 1 power play.
And Zayden Saddlemeyer, put up a lot of points last year.
Yeah.
But again, these are hard to play against kids. They know what it takes to win, like you mentioned. So who's a new guy, though, that might infiltrate this roster and become maybe an important player?
Well, again, I hope he's not mad at me for saying this, but you pull the curtain back a little bit from the Centennial Cup, and yes, Trevor Blevins was fully focused on winning the Centennial Cup last year, but a Calgary kid didn't end up on his lineup this year, so maybe there was something to that. But a kid named Jack McCarg is somebody that I know Rick Oakes and Trevor Blevins are very, very high on. He was really good. The Calgary Flames U18 AAA last year, kind of a point per gamer up front. Big guy, physical. Heard this before. Can skate with the Melfort Mustangs. So he'll fit right into that to their mold. And so Jack McCarg is my guy to watch.
There's a couple other guys, too. We talked a lot today about the SJHL draft and the importance of the SJHL draft. I look at a guy like Trey Marcus, who's on their preseason roster. I look at a guy like Josh Henry, who might get their backup goalie spot. Those are guys, SJHL draft guys. Rhett Vedras was an acquired player, former first overall draft pick by Weyburn several years ago. Now he's, I think he's 19 now, if I'm not mistaken. He's an 06, so he's 19 now. So he got acquired, so he's getting added to this group. But one guy that I really love, you mentioned all the, maybe the Hutchinsons, the Saddlemeyers, those guys. I think Austin Shepard's going to be a guy to watch this year.
Love the Shepard.
And I'm not just saying that because I know that his family watches this show. They do. So maybe I'm playing favoritism
Shout out
there.
Jerry and
I think Austin Shepard's entering his 20-year-old season now. He's won 2 championships in a row with this team. He's one of those guys who have been on both rosters coming into this season. He's entering his 4th season now, over 100 games of experience. To me, he's like the Sam Bennett of the SJHL. I think he's going to be a really important player. Maybe not like the guy who puts up 60 points, but the way he plays, I think he's going to set the tone for this team every night. And I think Austin Shepard's a guy. So I'm saying maybe his production is not all about point totals. I still think he's probably going to put up, if I had to guess, maybe 40 points, 40 to 50 points, if I could see it.
I know.
He could. But I think his production is going to be so much more than just his points. And I think he was given an assistant captain job for a reason, and he's a great player. So shout out Austin Shepard and their family, because I know that they're watching, like I said. But there you go, the Melfort Mustangs. So Nugsy, this is a tough division because I think there's 3 teams in my mind that could win this one as of today. So who do you think might win the UPL division?
Oh, gosh. Man, it's got to be Melfort.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Until someone knocks them off the perch, it's got to be Melfort.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to go with Nipawin. I have to.
Fair enough.
I was so excited about them last year, and coming into this year, I got a lot of excitement for them. So I'm going to say Tad Kozin and company and Nipawin are going to take this one this year. So it's going to be, and Flin Flon is like yelling at us in the comments, I'm sure, right now. Austin Cardell is so mad at us right now. But that's okay. That's what these shows are for. We're here to
Melfort
talk.
has Madden Malacca. We know how
Yeah.
good he is.
Yeah.
You know, Nipawin has Gage Roberts. We know he is good he is. Like, is Devin Peck good?
Probably, yes.
We think so. We
think
hope
so.
so. But we don't know.
And
sorry. Yell at us if you want, Austin, or whoever.
Looking at Mike Reagan's
We don't
track
know.
record, he won't be shy to make a move if he has to either. So we'll see. But I just can't. I can't go off-brand. I have to stay on my brand and say Nipawin, because I've been on these guys since the middle of last season, so I have to. But we're going to take a break, our first commercial break. We didn't get out of the first segment under an hour. Nugsy, I was hoping we would. But when we come back, of course, Kyle McIntyre, the commissioner of the SJHL, will join us, so stick around until after the break.
The Price Beat Guarantee is back at Capital GMC in Regina. We will beat any price on any new vehicle from any competitor, or you get $500 cash guaranteed. The Price Beat Guarantee at Capital GMC in Regina.
At Vatterstad, we're partnering with North American farmers to create the perfect emergence. We're doing this with new and innovative tillage, planting, and seeding solutions, optimized for the field conditions that you face, and with industry-leading capacities to help you get the job done in short windows of time, so you can maximize yields. Vatterstad, we look forward to growing together.
Thanks, mister.
Every ticket you buy funds programs all across Saskatchewan, like sports. Buy your tickets today.
In the last decade, the construction industry has reduced injuries by 46%. That's as many injuries prevented that would fill several stadiums. Find out more at scsaonline.ca.
Feeling like your dreams are out of reach? RBC has programs and resources to help you open the door. With RBCX Music, RBC Training Ground, and RBC Scholarships, your idea of your highest potential happens here.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
There we go. Welcome back inside the IKS Media Studios. We had the NASCAR pit crew in here, quite literally in the break here, just making sure we're all good to go here for our interview coming up with SJHL Commissioner Kyle McIntyre. Kyle, we'll bring you in now. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us today. Let's start with the summer. How was your summer, Kyle? I know you usually get up to a whole bunch of stuff. What'd you get up to this summer?
Well, my summer was fantastic, guys. I got up to a little bit of lake life and a lot of time on the golf course. Unfortunately, we had some family health situations that kind of took away a little bit from it, but summer was relaxing and enjoyable, and we're ready to get back to SJHL hockey.
One of the things I'm always very impressed with, and you usually let me know about it, is your summer barbecue cooking routines. And I know you were making a batch of salsa. How did it turn out? Because you said you might give me a jar, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, had I come in today, I would have brought you a jar. The salsa turned out very well. It's a little bit runny. And Mrs. McIntyre and Commissioner McIntyre, we have a different taste bud. And so she likes it super spicy and hot. I really prefer the mild and sweet. So my batch was mild and sweet, but next time I'll have to add a couple more jalapenos.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think me and your wife would get along. I'm a big spice guy, so I think I'm right there with her. So that's good to know, and I'll look forward to that jar whenever you happen to get into town next. But Kyle, I think we have to start with, I think there was a lot of excitement this offseason regarding the move of Notre Dame to Warman, and there's a lot of excitement coming into their home opener this weekend, hearing about a sellout, a lot of excitement around the community. I guess just how has that all gone? Give us an update in terms of the summer, and now as we're entering the season, how do you feel about how the Warman Wolverines situation is kind of coming together?
Yeah, well, the one thing I will say for sure is that the Wolverines have really done a great job building relationships in the community, both with the city council and the mayor of Warman, with the high school, with the minor hockey systems, and with all their new sponsors. So they've really created a lot of excitement in the community, which is great because Warman is, of course, a great community and they love their hockey. Talking with Brianna Burns today in our marketing meeting, and she was talking about a sellout, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I think the community is going to do their part. Now the guys on the ice got to do their part. And I guess the thing that we're all curious about is where's that goal scoring going to come from? And, we're looking forward to Friday night. Both Jacob and Jamie and myself plan on being in Warman. And I know that Cole and Jonathan and Brianna and Brett have done a great job getting this team ready. And it's going to be exciting to see what opening night brings.
Yeah, it should be a ton of fun. My understanding is I'm going to be on the broadcast in some form, actually.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes. Also make content for the league. Don't worry, Kyle. I'm working for you. We got to switch gears then to the other big news, maybe of the offseason, was that the Larange Ice Wolves are going to move to the JRMCC and play in that beautiful facility. How excited are you to kind of showcase that facility and to showcase the community of Larange in a very nice light, because it's a nice rink there?
Well, really looking forward to it, and as much excitement and ambiance that the Mel Hagland Arena brought to the community of Larange and to the Larange Ice Wolves, the JRMCC is a wonderful facility. You might remember a few years ago in playoffs when Melfort and Larange were playing, and somewhat inadvertently drilled through a Freon line at the Mel, and we had to go to the GRMCC. And so Kevin Roberts and his staff were very accommodating. It's a great facility. They've built a brand new dressing room. They've upgraded the visiting room. They've built a new office for Kevin and Kyle Graham. They're going to have a team store. Like, it's going to be fantastic. I think it's so good for the community, and best of all, it's going to improve the player experience and player comfort, which I think is important.
Yeah, there will never be a rink like the Mel Hagland Uniplex. There will never be a rink. I'll just leave it there. But
for sure,
I loved it. Yeah, that was a really unique building, and I loved it. Kyle, it's hard to talk about a better flagship franchise, I would say, than the Melfort Mustangs. Back-to-back champions, back-to-back amazing showings at the Centennial Cup as well. What does that type of success do for the league as a whole? Because not only that, we're coming off a couple seasons before that where the Battlefords North Stars were almost as good, if not as good. So what does that kind of success do for the SJHL?
Well, I look at our results. So the last 3 years in a row, we've had the SJHL champion in the final at the Centennial Cup. Last 3 years in a row, we've had 3 consecutive CJHL Coaches of the Year awards from the SJHL. Uh, Unfortunately, when we go to the Centennial Cup, there's a big bullseye on the SJHL's forehead. We really have a competitive brand of hockey. There's so much parity in the league, and I think whoever comes out of our league is battle tested. They're ready. They're competitive. And as everybody knows, we play a real unique brand of hockey in Saskatchewan. It's fast, it's skilled, it's physical, it's a 200-foot game, it's a complete game. It's really enjoyable for fans. So I think it's so good for the league. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that you guys were going to crown them champions today.
Hey, whoa, 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 whoa.
I didn't.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I said Nipawin was going to win their division. How can you?
I think we got 11 teams that have something to say about that for sure.
Well, that's the best part, is that we can say whatever we want today. At the end of the day, none of that really matters. So that's the best part about this league, like you said, Kyle, is anybody can win, and it's an extremely exciting time of the year.
Yeah. I got a question too, Kyle, for you. Obviously we send out our different media packs and stuff, and one thing that maybe came out to people that they like, what is that? Is the Viking Cup. So obviously we'll talk about it even more as it approaches, but what is it and why are we getting involved with it?
Yeah, the Viking Cup. So the SJHL was actually in the Viking Cup back in the 90s. The tournament organizer, Tim Green, was sending me some jersey pictures. What it is that this year, I think the fans probably know by now, we've decided to not continue with the MJSJ Showcase. And so we are looking for other opportunities or venues to showcase our players. And of course, the Western All-Star Challenge is for those kids that are basically 18 and under, the high-end prospects. Everyone wants to come watch those kids for future opportunities. But we really weren't doing anything for our older 19s and 20s. And so the Viking Cup is organized and originated with Camrose College from the ACAC. It's typically been a college tournament for recruitment purposes for the ACAC. Now, of course, with the number of SJHL players going to both U Sport and the ACAC, they were eager to have us back the last few years. And so departing Clayton Jardine made an introduction for me with Tim Green, and Tim and I have been talking, and our SJHL All-Stars, 20 and younger, but primarily 20. We're going to go and play against schools like Augustana and Camrose, and a team from Korea and a team from the US, and a team from Sweden. And so I think it's going to be a real good opportunity for our 20s and some of our 19s to really showcase their talents and really have a direct impact on their future recruiting.
I think you just perked up a whole lot of years across the league.
Awesome.
I think that sounds pretty awesome. And I know that part of that, or that is part of, I should say, this whole Western development model that we've been a part of now for the last little bit. So I guess, where are we at with the Western development model, and maybe what are the next steps that we can all look forward to? Maybe the Viking Cup might be part of it, but what are some of the next steps that we can look forward to?
Well, of course, we were approved. Our first phase was successful, and so Hockey Canada and the branches are allowing the Western Leagues and the Western Hockey League to continue into phase 2. And phase 2 is basically roster construction, and recognizing that it is the Western Canadian development model. So there is an inherent bias towards having more Western born and developed players on your rosters. And so certainly our teams always have a strong Western representation. And of course, that's why we play the style we play. But they've really decided to define the number of Americans and the number of players that are outside of the Western provinces. So now teams can have up to 5 U.S. players on their roster, another 8 outside of the Western branches. And so that's going to, I don't think that really impacts our team significantly. I think most of our teams were well within those parameters last year. But we are going to see some different things, especially on the shorthanded, the penalty kill this year. So the team on the offense or the power play is going to have an opportunity to choose the side of the ice in the defensive zone that they want to take the face-off on.
Oh,
okay.
Just another wrinkle, another twist. And I think for most people, the Western Canadian development model really has the rules and the package in its entirety have really looked towards increasing more offense and to developing more players and developing skills of players. And so I think we're going to continue to see that. But the new face-off rule is going to be an interesting twist for sure.
There you go. My love of face-off guys will be even more front and center.
Lucas Schmid he's like, okay. Now he's going to be a power play quarterback just by winning face-offs.
Well, he'll be on waivers power play. He'll be fine. My last question, Kyle, really appreciate your time, really appreciate your patience as well as we work through all these teams is, obviously we've talked a lot about how much I love the U Sports level and, how much that's, an important piece now of the goal of especially our 19 and 20-year-old players in the SJHL. We pushed around 30 guys to U Sports from last year. Just talk about kind of the landscape of where, guys moving on from the SJHL, where that's going and whether, how good you feel about, the U Sports as a target right now.
Well, you know what, Jamie and Clark and fans, the plate tectonics of junior hockey continue to shift. Have they settled? Do we know where things are all going to fall into line and everything's going to be? No. And I think it's really going to take a couple of years for things to kind of stabilize or normalize. I would say for our fans, we probably had the same number overall of players from the SJHL transitioning to post-secondary hockey opportunities for the opportunity to be student athletes. The pool is the pool, the fish are the fish, the prospects are the prospects. But last year, where some of them swam has changed a bit. Mm-hmm. So traditionally, we probably had half as many U Sport numbers for scholarships and maybe double the NCAA Division I. Our Division IIIs have stayed the same. It's relatively a flat, consistent number. The ACAC has stayed the same, but our U Sport more than doubled. And as a parent who had child play U Sport, I think Canadian universities have a really good education. You really get a good opportunity. Your dollar's going to travel a lot further. I have another child who's down in the States playing golf. It is not a cheap endeavor for families. And so I think anytime a kid is going to continue to play the sport they want to play and have their education paid for, it's a great thing. And so U Sport hockey it's great hockey. It's fun to watch. And there would be many U Sport programs that would be super competitive with any Division I programs. I guarantee that. So it's going to be a good opportunity. And I know that Trevor Keeper, who was in Red Deer, who's moved over to the U of R, like he is probably one of the few guys in the ACAC that consistently has between 12 and 15 SJHL players a year on his franchise. And Red Deer has won the ACAC the last 3 years. Well, now he's going to U of R, and what is his bias? His bias is to have a bunch of SJHL players, which is great for our players and great for the league. And of course, in Brandon Cote in Saskatoon, he has lots of kids from the SJHL, lots from Melfort on his roster, and Winnipeg or Manitoba is starting to add a lot of SJHL guys too. So, I think the people that broke the ground, the Logan Linkletters, the Hillbigs, some of those kids down east, I think it's going to continue to open more and more doors for our players.
Well, Kyle, usually every year we talk to you in this preseason show, we get some sort of nugget that's like, whoa, I can't believe you said that. But I'm going to let this last one kind of be an open floor for you. My original,
nice try, Clark.
My original question was just, how are you feeling about the overall strength? We mentioned the changing landscape and the shifting tectonics and all that stuff of junior hockey. But overall strength of the league going into this season, how are we feeling? And I'll open the floor to you if you want to throw any little nuggets in there as well at the same time.
Well, look at our off season. We are a developmental league. So not only are our kids getting a great opportunity, we got 4 officials that are going to the Olympics, which is awesome. We've had a couple coaches transition to the Western Hockey League with Clayton Jardine and Ty Sugar. We've lost some broadcasters to better opportunities in the league. Look at Austin Matz is joining the Western League. So as you say, Clark, rightly so, this is a league of opportunity. It's a league of parity. I can't predict who's going to win this year. I'm a little concerned about 1 or 2 teams, but most of them look pretty strong on paper. I watched quite a bit of the exhibitions on Flow Hockey this year and saw some real exciting teams. And I'm thinking, geez, where are these guys going to fit with the returnees coming in? So I think we're going to see lots of parity. And unfortunately for you guys, we don't reward the Cantera Seeds Cup in September, October, November. It's awarded in April or May. And so I think it's going to be a long season of fun hockey, and there's going to be lots of parity. And we're going to see lots of people who maybe didn't have a prominent role last year step up and turn some heads and bring some excitement to their teams and to themselves. And really, that's what our league is about.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle, I think we'll let it live there for now. Appreciate you joining us today. It's an exciting weekend. I know you're going to be out in the rink, so I'm sure you'll say if anybody sees you to come say hi and talk to you. And I'm sure it'll be a great weekend for you. But appreciate your time today, and we'll chat with you again soon, Kyle.
Hey, and before I leave, guys, I just want to thank you for your thorough preparation. Like, although I kid you about being long-winded, what a thorough analysis of every single roster. And I think that's why we love you, and that's why people tune into your show, because you guys are informed and you do your homework and you put the work boots on and you do the work and you know the kids so well. So I really appreciate that, guys. Thanks, you.
Kyle.
Appreciate that, Kyle. As always, Kyle McIntyre, SJHL Commissioner. The $20 for saying that last part is in the mail.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll give it to you when you give me the jar of salsa. How about that?
What do I get?
Jar, you want some salsa? It's probably gluten-free.
I'll give it to Kelly. He helps us, and Bryce, those guys, and Jordan.
Yeah.
All these guys, Carson, like Josh, the list goes on. The back guys in the back, they deserve all the salsa.
We'll have a chips and salsa party.
They're a bunch of legends back there.
It's going to be a great time. Appreciate that, and we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're just going to wrap this whole thing up. We've gone on, we're on an hour and a half now. So we'll come back, we'll make a really quick last segment after this, but we'll see you after the break.
Feeling left out of can't-miss moments? RBC has programs and resources to help you open the door. RBC clients get access to concerts, Avion rewards, and exclusive benefits. Your idea of memorable moments happens here.
Each year, the SCSA issues over 10,000 training certificates to the construction professionals who build our province. That is the same population as Weyburn. Learn more at scsaonline.ca.
Ticket you buy funds programs all across Saskatchewan, like arts and culture. Buy your tickets today.
Introducing SaskTel Student Saving Tips. Tip number 138. You could build your own pallet furniture.
So you're living on your own. You gotta save money by building furniture with pallets.
Or get Infinite 150 for only $50 a month with SaskTel student deals.
Original 16. Celebrate things done well.
Welcome back for a quick, we'll call it a quick segment 3, Nugsy, of the show. Usually in segment 3, we usually play a little bit of a game or we do some sort of prediction of some kind. We're going to save that all for Monday's episode of SJHL Weekly when we recap the first weekend of the season. We'll talk about maybe some player predictions in terms of maybe some early award favorites and stuff like that. So we will get into that with you on Monday on SJHL Weekly on our first regular season edition of SJHL Weekly. But we do have some broadcast plans to talk about for the season, what we have coming up for you guys. Because Nugsy, we've been doing, you've been doing this now for how many seasons? This kind of broadcast in some form? 6?
2019.
So this will be season 6 or 7, I guess,
About
depending
it,
on how you look at it.
Every broadcast I did with somebody in the past, I would say, I'm not good at math. But
Right, and that remains, and me as well. So I'm going to say 6 or 7.
Why?
And I hate saying that because I know all the kids out there are saying 6, 7 these days, and I don't understand it. I don't get it. And this is the hand motion for it. But that's what it's about, 6 or 7. Regardless, what I'm saying is we continue to evolve. We continue to add to the coverage that we provide for everybody here at SJHL Media. So we'll be coming back every Monday with SJHL Weekly. That's not changing. We're going to come back with SJHL Insider on Thursday. That's not changing. However, SJHL Insider will have a bit of a different flair this year. We're going to, yes, give you updates on the league, but we're going to focus on alumni and university hockey and secondary opportunities for players. And it'll be a different look. It's not going to be, over the years, SJHL Insider was always talking to broadcasters, and we still will talk to broadcasters throughout the year, but we're going to bring on alumni and some cool stories from players who have moved on to the next level. So that's going to be a big focus for SJHL Insider this season. And then eventually, I'm just going to throw it out there because we teased it already on the website, so it's out there. It won't start right away, but it'll start soon, and that is the Friday night spotlight, the game of the week, so to speak. So that'll be a live show. It'll be live for you. It'll be at 6:30 on Friday nights when it starts. Again, we'll give you the start date when we come up with the start date. I think we're just waiting on some sponsor stuff and some dotted lines and all that kind of stuff. But we will be coming with you for a 30-minute pregame show on Friday nights for one specific game. But it'll be a league-wide show, but it'll be focused on one specific game as well. There'll be interviews involved in that. And it'll be live on our Facebook and YouTube and Twitter channels at 6:30 on a Friday night leading into one of the broadcasts. So we'll let you know more about that when we get a little bit more information and certainty on that. But Nugsy, I'm really excited about that because if you guys didn't know, Nugsy and I also did a little bit of baseball stuff.
It was so much fun.
It was a ton of fun.
So much fun.
And we kind of experimented with this Friday night game of the week situation for the baseball league, the WCBL, which a lot of you might also be fans of. But it worked so well that we thought, let's transition that into the SJHL as well. So once that gets going, we'll let you know. But I'm pretty excited about Nugsy because I had a lot of fun with
it
this summer
great.
for that.
Me too, yeah.
So
go Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly. Regina Red Sox champions.
I mean, we're impartial.
You're right. Yeah, for sure. But it was a lot of fun. So the Friday night thing will be a new thing for you, along with the coming back with the SaskTel Game of the Months, which I think the schedule is online now. So if you want to go check that out, I think the schedule is online for that, right?
For what? Games of the month?
Game of the month?
It will be.
It will be. Okay, we'll come out with that and let you know very shortly. So that's the broadcast plans for the season. We're bringing you everything you know and love already. We're adding to it, and we're going to be adding more stuff on our social media platforms as well as we go. There will be some fun stuff this season for sure. But Nugsy, let's have a look at the weekend because we talked about it all show, but we didn't talk about who's playing who.
Look at those nice graphics.
New graphics.
So beautiful.
So we're talking about home openers this weekend. Now, of course, we are in the point of the season where Flin Flon is on a different time zone, so remember that. That's why it's at the top, even though it says 7:30. It's actually 6:30 Saskatchewan time for the first little bit of the season. But Flin Flon will host the Laurent Ice Wolves at the Whitney Forum for their home opener. Weyburn's brand new facility, it's not a new facility, but newly named facility, Whitecap Resources Center. That's the new home of the Weyburn Red Wings, and they'll be hosting the Yorkton Terriers in a newly named Bunge Division rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the Bunge Division, Melville is hosting Estevan at the CN Community Center in their home opener. Warman Wolverines host their first game at the Warman Home Center Communiplex. I will get that. That'll become more natural as we go. The Warman Home Center Communiplex, they host the Humboldt Broncos in a Nutrien division clash. Of course, that game, we're hearing rumors of a sellout. It's going to be a ton of fun. Nugsy's going to be there. Yep. So that'll be fun.
And Father.
And Father. And Kyle, Commissioner Kyle. So it's going to have, it's going to be a great night.
Yeah.
The Access Communication Centers in Battleford will host the Kindersley Clippers for the Battleford's North Stars home opener. That'll be a fun one. And then the Melfort Mustangs banner raising night is going to be.
The script writers.
Yeah.
Nippo and Melfort first night.
Nippo and Melfort first night.
That's going to be nuts.
It's going to be a great game. And of course, it's the banner raising night in Melfort. So it's going to be a ton of fun there. And then on Saturday, 5 more games. A lot of them are just venue flips from the night before. So Battleford's is in Kindersley, Melville is in Estevan, Weyburn's in Yorkton, Warman's in Humboldt, and Flin Flon is in La Ronge at the Jonas Roberts Memorial Community Center, the JRMCC in Larange. So that's going to be the opening night for Larange in their new building as well. So it's going to be it's a great weekend. No games on Sunday, so we'll have 11 games on Monday to talk about Nugsy.
Yeah, and
How excited are you?
Nipawin has to wait a little bit for their home opener, but check that out on sjhl.ca.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, and hey, I mean, don't count out those Wolverines. I've been joking with their business manager, Brianna, about what exactly a Wolverine is. I asked her if she could ask the players if they knew what a Wolverine actually was.
It's a
weasel. It's a scary
X-Men
weasel,
character.
is my understanding. They're pretty tough. But I was talking to Vinny Palmerine about it, and we were thinking about maybe what sound they make.
I've always thought of a Wolverine as kind of a badger.
Yeah, it's like the world's biggest weasel.
Right. Okay. I'll go with that.
It's tough.
It doesn't sound like anything I've ever wanted to encounter.
Right.
So that's.
They'll bite you.
Yeah. They've got to have a bit of a bite. So, anyways, 11 really exciting games. Of course, obviously, we're going to say go get your tickets and get out to the rinks. But if you can't, we have a partnership again with Flow Hockey this season. So you can watch all the games on Flow Hockey and follow us on all of our social media channels. We'll have you covered in terms of the results, in terms of everything going on this weekend. So follow us on YouTube, of course. Subscribe there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We'll have all the stuff for you. We'll have our game day videos, which I didn't mention in our earlier broadcast plans. Every game day, we'll put out a video letting you know who's playing who and why it's important, and stuff going on around the league and the website as well. So much stuff for you. Appreciate everybody joining in today on YouTube and Facebook. Is there anybody I want to shout out on YouTube and Facebook before we go? Chelsea Gladue is tuned in. Chris MacArthur is tuned in. Thank you for Chris MacArthur, by the way. He's saying we do an awesome job. Appreciate that, Chris. I think that was in relation to what Kyle McIntyre said at the end of his interview. So thank you, guys. Jordan Blodgett said, I'm glad they went with Wolverines.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, Jordan, you're watching and tuned in.
The Battleford's North Stars legendary in-arena announcer, the best in-arena announcer in the league, in my opinion. You can make some people mad, but Jay is the best, if you ask me.
Yep.
He said that the SJHL record for wins in a season was Kean Bell and those guys, Jake Southgate, back in 22-23 with 48. And that team was not any fair to play against.
No. So Melfort last year had 46. So sorry. Flin Flon had 44. Melfort had
Jay
more
is the
wins
nicest
than that.
guy ever.
Jay,
so the way,
correct.
if he said it, it was probably said in the nicest way.
No, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
Battleford's has that record of 48. Yeah, that's correct. But anyways, appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us. If you're watching right now on Facebook, hit the like and share button before the end of the show. Would appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe. But Nugsy, I will see you again on Monday. I'm heading to Toronto this weekend, so I won't be able to get to any games.
The home of the Blue Jays.
Yes.
Let's go Blue Jays.
And guess who's not there? The Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I won't be able to go to a game. But it's going to be a fun weekend for me. It's a wedding thing. So I won't be at any games, but Nugsy will, and Kyle and Jacob Faith and everybody. So enjoy the weekend, everybody. Nugsy, final words to you before we go.
Wow.
I thought you would have had something prepared.
It's going to be fun. And I am so grateful that you guys tune in. Jay, I know you're very grateful, and everybody in the back is
Absolutely.
grateful. Paul, Drouin is grateful. We're all grateful to be able to bring this to you. So thank you so much again this year.
There you go. Well, appreciate it. Everybody in the back, for Bryce, for Connor, for Jordan, for Kelly, who does a lot of work for us graphics-wise. The new designed by Josh and Josh upstairs, and Kelly. And like you said, to Paul and everybody here at IKS. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you at the rinks. These guys will. And also next Monday on SJHL Weekly. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.